When the world grows loud with opinions, expectations, and demands, yet something within you grows quiet and patient, waiting to be heard. It is the voice that has walked with you through joy and heartbreak, through beginnings and endings, through every silent prayer you never spoke aloud. Your heart has watched you doubt yourself, betray your own truth, and still it has never turned away. Today is not about advice from others or answers from the outside world. It is about returning to that sacred place within you where honesty lives. If you dare to listen, truly listen, you will discover that your heart has always known the way, even when you forgot how to trust it. There are truths your heart learned long before the world told you who to be, before fear dressed itself as wisdom, before doubt learned your name, before survival taught you to stay small. Your heart already knew what felt right. It knew joy without permission and pain without shame. It recognized love without conditions and courage without applause. Yet somewhere along the way, the mind was trained to overrule that knowing, to call it foolish, impractical, or dangerous. Still, the heart remembers. It always remembers. Your heart remembers the dreams you buried to be accepted, the words you swallowed to keep the peace, the versions of yourself you abandoned so others could feel comfortable. It remembers how your spirit felt when it was free, when laughter came easy, when hope did not require explanation. Even when you forgot, even when you convinced yourself that this is just how life is, your heart kept the record. It held the truth gently, waiting for the day you would be brave enough to ask for it back. The mind is a collector of lessons, but the heart is a keeper of wisdom. The mind learns from rules, consequences, and caution. The heart learns from experience, from feeling deeply, from surviving what should have broken you. That is why the mind often urges you to stay where you are, while the heart urges you to grow. The mind seeks safety, the heart seeks truth. And though truth may tremble your hands, it steadies your soul. When you ignore your heart, life begins to feel heavy in ways you cannot name. Success tastes dull, relationships feel incomplete, and even rest does not restore you. That heaviness is not failure, it is misalignment. It is the quiet ache of a heart reminding you that you have strayed from yourself. The heart does not punish, it signals. It whispers through discomfort, longing, and restlessness, asking you to come home. Listening to your heart does not mean life will be easy. It means life will be honest. It means you will sometimes choose the harder road because it is yours. It means releasing what looks good but feels wrong and embracing what feels right, even when it frightens you. Listening is an act of courage because it requires you to trust yourself again after the world taught you not to. So pause, breathe, let the noise fall away. Ask yourself what you once knew before fear edited your voice. The answer may not shout, but it will arrive gently, steadily, truthfully. And when it does, honor it, because your heart is not trying to lead you astray. It is trying to lead you back to who you were always meant to be. There is a kind of silence that frightens us because it removes all distractions, all excuses, all escapes. In that stillness, there are no voices to hide behind and no noise to drown out the truth. Silence asks nothing from you except honesty. It strips life down to what is real, and that is why we avoid it. Yet it is in that quiet space where the heart finally feels safe enough to speak. Not loudly, not urgently, but with a certainty that does not need to prove itself. In silence, the heart tells you what the noise never could. It tells you when you are forcing a life that does not fit, when you are smiling out of habit instead of joy, when you are staying out of fear instead of love. The world trains us to believe that answers come from movement, from talking, from doing more. But the heart waits for stillness because only when you slow down can you hear what has been whispering inside you all along. Silence reveals the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the absence of others, but solitude is the presence of self. When you sit alone without distraction, you begin to recognize your own emotional language. You notice what drains you and what nourishes you. You feel the weight of what no longer belongs to you. And though this awareness may ache at first, it is a healing ache, the kind that comes before release. Your heart does not speak in full sentences. It speaks in feelings, in tightness and ease, in peace and resistance. It speaks through calm when something is right and unrest when something is wrong. Silence sharpens your ability to understand that language. Without the opinions of others echoing in your mind, you begin to trust your inner responses again. You remember that your body and spirit have always been honest with you, even when you were not ready to listen. There is wisdom in sitting with unanswered questions. Silence teaches patience, and patience teaches clarity. Not every decision needs to be rushed, and not every emotion needs to be explained. Sometimes the heart needs time to surface what it knows. In silence, truth rises naturally, like breath returning after a long hold. It does not arrive with drama, it arrives with peace. When you learn to honor silence, you stop fearing your own thoughts. You stop running from your feelings. You realize that what you were avoiding was not weakness, but truth asking to be acknowledged. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Silence changes you gently, steadily, teaching you that your heart has never been quiet out of emptiness, but out of wisdom. So make space for silence, not as punishment, but as permission. Permission to feel, to reflect, to remember who you are beneath the noise. Because when the world finally grows quiet, your heart will not leave you confused. It will speak with clarity, with love, and with a truth that has been waiting patiently for you to listen. Every scar you carry is evidence that you lived, that you felt deeply, that you survived something that once tried to claim you. Scars are not signs of weakness or poor judgment. They are proof of endurance. They mark the places where life touched you hardest and where you refused to disappear. The world may teach you to hide them, to be ashamed of what hurt you, but your scars are not warnings carved into your skin or soul. They are messages written in the language of survival. Each scar holds a story, not of defeat, but of continuation. It says that pain came, stayed for a while, and then left you breathing. It says you were bent, but not erased. Some scars were earned through love given too freely, trust placed too deeply, or hope carried too long. Others came from battles you never asked for, storms you did not invite, or silence you endured alone. Still, every scar speaks the same truth. You made it through. We are often taught to fear our scars, to see them as reasons to be cautious, closed, or cold. But scars are not telling you to retreat from life. They are reminding you that you already know how to heal. They are proof that you possess a strength you did not know you had until you needed it. When you look at your scars with compassion instead of judgment, you stop reliving the wound and start honoring the growth. Scars also teach discernment, not fear. They sharpen your awareness without hardening your heart. They help you recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. They remind you to listen more closely to yourself, to set boundaries where you once had none, and to choose peace where you once chose approval. This is not bitterness. This is wisdom earned through experience. There is beauty in a heart that has been broken and still remains open. There is courage in choosing to love again after loss, to trust again after betrayal, to hope again after disappointment. Your scars do not mean you are damaged beyond repair. They mean you have been shaped by life, refined by it, made deeper and more human through it. When you stop treating your scars as warnings, you stop living in defense mode. You stop assuming pain will repeat itself in the same way. You begin to understand that while the past taught you lessons, it does not get to decide your future. Your scars are not telling you to stay guarded forever. They are telling you that you are capable of surviving whatever comes. So do not rush to erase your scars or explain them away. Let them speak. Let them remind you of your resilience, your softness, your refusal to give up. They are not there to frighten you back into silence. They are there to guide you forward with truth, strength, and a deeper trust in your own heart. The heart has long been misunderstood, labeled as fragile, impulsive, or foolish, when in truth it is one of the wisest guides we possess. It feels what logic cannot measure and understands what words cannot explain. While the mind calculates risk and rehearses fear, the heart recognizes alignment. It knows when something nourishes your spirit and when something slowly drains it, even if it looks right on the surface. This knowing does not come from guessing. It comes from lived experience, from paying attention to what brings peace and what steals it. Wisdom does not always arrive dressed as certainty. Sometimes it comes as discomfort, as a quiet resistance you cannot justify, as an unease that refuses to be ignored. The heart speaks through these signals not to confuse you, but to protect you. It senses imbalance before it becomes damage. It notices when you are compromising too much of yourself, when you are shrinking to fit places you have outgrown. This is not weakness. This is awareness refined through feeling. The heart carries lessons the mind alone cannot teach. It remembers how it felt to be betrayed and how it felt to forgive. It remembers the cost of staying silent and the relief of speaking truth. These memories are not chains meant to hold you back. They are maps meant to guide you forward. The heart learns patterns, recognizes emotional climates, and responds with discernment that comes from depth, not fear. It does not rush you toward pain, nor does it keep you locked away from life. It simply asks you to choose honestly. We live in a world that praises toughness while quietly discouraging tenderness. Yet tenderness is not the absence of strength, it is strength refined. A heart that remains open after being hurt is not naive, it is brave. It understands that closing off may prevent pain, but it also prevents joy. The heart knows that life cannot be lived fully from behind walls. Its wisdom lies in balance, in knowing when to protect and when to allow, when to hold on and when to let go. When you trust your heart, you stop confusing numbness with peace. You stop mistaking endurance for fulfillment. The heart calls you toward lives that feel true, not just lives that look successful. It urges you to seek connection over approval, meaning over comfort, authenticity over performance. These choices may not always be easy, but they will always be honest. Listening to the heart requires humility, because it often asks you to unlearn what you were praised for and reclaim what you were taught to ignore. It may ask you to slow down when the world demands speed, to walk away when applause is loud, or to stay when running feels easier. This guidance is subtle, but it is steady. It does not shout to impress. It whispers to be trusted. So honor the wisdom of your heart, not as an enemy of reason, but as its companion. Let your mind plan, but let your heart lead. For the heart is not weak, it is ancient, patient, and deeply wise, carrying truths that know how to keep you whole. There comes a time when you realize the weight you are carrying is not from work, responsibility, or time itself, but from ignoring what your heart has been trying to tell you. Life does not suddenly collapse, it slowly tightens. Mornings feel heavier than they should. Joy feels distant even when everything appears fine, and rest no longer restores you. This heaviness is subtle, almost polite, as if life is giving you space to notice before it becomes unbearable. When you ignore your heart, you begin to live in contradiction. You say yes when every part of you is tired of agreeing. You stay when your spirit is asking for movement. You smile out of habit, not happiness. Over time, these small betrayals of self accumulate and the soul grows weary. It is not dramatic exhaustion, but a quiet fatigue that seeps into your bones, making everything feel harder than it needs to be. The heart grows heavy not because it is weak, but because it is unheard. Just like any truth denied too long, it presses inward. You may call it stress, burnout, or bad luck, but often it is misalignment. It is the discomfort of living a life that does not fully belong to you. The heart was never meant to be silenced, it was meant to guide. When it is ignored, it does not stop speaking, it speaks through heaviness. This heaviness shows up in unexpected ways. You lose patience for things you once enjoyed. Your energy drains faster around certain people or places. Even achievements feel hollow, as if you are celebrating someone else's dream. These are not signs of ingratitude. They are signals. They are your heart reminding you that survival is not the same as fulfillment. Ignoring the heart teaches you how to endure, but listening to it teaches you how to live. Endurance alone will keep you standing, but it will not keep you alive on the inside. The heart grows heavy when it is forced to carry what it was never meant to hold. Unspoken truth, unexpressed emotion, unlived desire. It was designed for connection, honesty, and movement, not prolonged suppression. Yet the moment you begin to listen, something shifts. The weight does not disappear instantly, but it loosens. You feel lighter, not because your problems vanish, but because you stop carrying what is not yours. You begin to make choices that feel true instead of merely acceptable. You start honoring your limits, your longings, your inner resistance, and slowly, the heaviness gives way to clarity. Life is not meant to feel like a constant burden. It may be challenging, but it should not feel like punishment. When you listen to your heart, life regains its rhythm. Breath comes easier, decisions feel clearer, even difficult paths feel lighter because they are honest. The heart does not promise ease, but it promises alignment. And alignment lifts the weight that no amount of success, distraction, or approval ever could. Before you learned how to explain yourself, before you learned how to justify your choices, before you learned which parts of you were acceptable and which were not, your intuition was already speaking. It spoke in instinct, in feeling, in an inner pull that needed no permission. This was your soul's first language, fluent and unfiltered. It did not rely on logic or approval, it simply knew. And in those early moments of life, you trusted it without question. Your intuition did not need evidence to guide you. It responded to energy, to tone, to presence. It told you when something felt safe and when something felt off, even if everything looked fine on the surface. It nudged you toward joy and away from harm long before you understood why. This language was never meant to disappear. It was meant to mature. But the world, with all its rules and expectations, taught you to doubt what you felt and trust only what could be proven. Slowly, you were encouraged to silence that inner voice. You were told to be realistic, to be careful, to stop overthinking when you were actually overfeeling. Each time you ignored your intuition to please someone else, to fit in, or to avoid conflict, the connection weakened, not because it left you, but because you stopped listening. Still, it waited, patient, loyal, unoffended. Your intuition does not shout because it does not need to compete. It speaks softly, through subtle knowing, through calm certainty or quiet discomfort. It speaks when your body tightens without explanation, when peace appears unexpectedly, when something inside you says yes or no before your mind catches up. This language is gentle, and that is why it is often overlooked in a world addicted to noise. Relearning your intuition requires trust, and trust requires courage. It means believing yourself again after years of second guessing. It means accepting that not everything meaningful can be explained. Intuition may lead you away from what looks impressive and toward what feels true. It may ask you to walk alone for a while, to let go of certainty, to choose alignment over applause. These choices are not easy, but they are honest. The more you listen, the clearer the language becomes. Intuition grows stronger with acknowledgement. Each time you honor it, you rebuild the bridge between your mind and your soul. You begin to notice patterns, to recognize peace as a signal, not an accident. You stop forcing outcomes and start flowing toward what fits. Life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a conversation. Your intuition is not mystical or rare, it is natural. It is the part of you that remembers who you are beneath conditioning. It is your inner compass, tuned not to fear, but to truth. When you trust it, you do not lose your way. You find yourself. So listen closely, not with urgency, but with openness. Let your intuition speak in its native tongue. It has been with you since the beginning, carrying wisdom older than words, waiting for you to remember how to listen again. Honoring your heart is not an act that the world will always understand. People will call it impulsive, foolish, or reckless because it does not always follow the rules they have set. They may judge your choices, question your priorities, or try to convince you that what feels right is not practical. But the heart does not seek permission from others. It does not measure worth by approval. To honor it is to stand in quiet defiance of the voices that have been telling you to shrink, to stay safe, to compromise who you are for the sake of comfort. It is courage because it requires you to trust yourself when the world has trained you not to. Courage is not loud, it does not need applause. Sometimes it is simply speaking truth to yourself, even when it feels fragile. Sometimes it is choosing to do what is right for you, even when it frightens those around you. The act of honoring your heart begins in silence. It begins in those private moments when you pause and listen, when you allow your desires, your needs, and your intuition to have a say in your life. In these moments, courage grows quietly, unnoticed by anyone but yourself. Honoring your heart also demands honesty. It asks you to admit where you have compromised, where you have ignored your instincts, where you have followed paths that others approved of, but your soul resisted. This is not shame, it is awareness, and awareness is the first step toward liberation. To acknowledge that you have been bending yourself into shapes that do not fit is not weakness, it is clarity. It is choosing to live with intention rather than habit. To honor the heart is to embrace vulnerability. It requires opening yourself to possibility, to disappointment, and to joy, knowing full well that all of these are part of living authentically. It is easy to conform, to follow expectations, to avoid pain. But the heart calls for truth, not comfort. When you listen, when you act in alignment with it, you are choosing a path that may be uncertain, but it is your own. You are choosing life in its fullness rather than life in its shadow. Honoring your heart also teaches discernment. It does not ask you to abandon reason or responsibility. It asks you to align action with intention, decision with feeling, and presence with purpose. Sometimes the heart will urge patience, other times, action. It knows that integrity is not about doing the easiest thing. It is about doing what preserves your essence. To follow it is to navigate life with authenticity, even when that authenticity is misunderstood. This courage becomes its own reward. When you honor your heart, you begin to recognize the truth in others' hearts as well. You cultivate compassion because you understand the struggle of listening inward while facing outward pressures. You cultivate strength because you have practiced standing firm in your truth. And most of all, you cultivate freedom, the freedom to live according to the rhythm of your own spirit, rather than the expectations imposed upon you. So do not mistake honoring your heart for rebellion. It is not defiance for the sake of defiance. It is fidelity to yourself, and that is a form of courage the world may never fully appreciate, but your soul will always recognize. Each choice that aligns with your heart is a quiet victory, a testament to the power of listening, trusting, and honoring the life that is yours to live.